Jake watched through the vault's sensors as the Destiny powered up its engines and left the station. The ship was small compared to the massive alien vessels around it, but it moved with grace and purpose. He tracked it until it jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. His crew was going home. He was not. The weight of that reality settled onto his shoulders. He would never see Earth again. Not really. Oh, he could visit perhaps, but it would not be the same. He was not Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Fleet anymore. He was something else now. Something both more and less than human. He was the bearer of justice. The voice of the architects in a galaxy that had forgotten what fairness meant. The keeper touched his arm gently with one wrinkled appendage. The burden is heavy, bearer. All who came before you felt the same weight. But you will not carry it alone. I am here, the ring is here. And across the galaxy there are others who still believe in justice. You will find them. You will give them hope. Jake took a deep breath and nodded. Where do we start? There must be thousands of injustices happening right now. Millions of beings suffering under corrupt governments or cruel laws. How do I choose which ones to address first? You do not choose, the keeper explained. The ring will guide you. It senses where justice is most needed. It feels the currents of right and wrong flowing through the galaxy. Trust it, trust yourself. The architects chose their bearers carefully. They saw in you the qualities needed for this role. As if responding to the keeper's words, the ring pulsed with warmth. Jake felt information flowing into his mind. He saw a distant star system. He saw a species enslaved by their conquerors. He saw children working in mines pulling minerals from toxic soil. He saw guards with weapons ensuring no one escaped. He felt the ring's gentle push toward action. There, Jake said, pointing at nothing. 600 light-years from here. A species called the Drenni are being used as slave labor by the Korthan Empire. The Drenni asked the Council for help 2 years ago. The Council did nothing because the Korthans have powerful allies. But I can do something. The Keeper's many eyes blinked in sequence. The Korthans are dangerous, bearer. They have a large military. They will not give up their slaves without a fight. Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. Then they will learn what happens when you fight justice itself. He raised his right hand. The ring glowed. Space itself seemed to bend around them. The vault disappeared. For a moment, Jake existed everywhere and nowhere. He could feel the fabric of reality shifting. Then they were somewhere else entirely. They stood on the surface of a dead moon. Below them, a planet turned slowly. It was gray and brown with very little green. Lights dotted the surface, marking cities and industrial complexes. Jake's enhanced senses could feel the suffering of millions of Drenni working in those complexes. Could taste their despair like ash in his mouth. The Korthan Emperor resides in that palace. The keeper pointed to a massive structure in the northern hemisphere. He rules through fear and violence. He has crushed 17 rebellions in the last century. His military is loyal because he pays them well with the profits from slave labor. Not anymore. Jake stepped forward off the moon's surface, but he did not fall. The ring held him suspended in space. It carried him down toward the planet at impossible speed. The keeper followed, somehow keeping pace despite its fragile appearance. They descended through the atmosphere, leaving trails of blue light. Below, the Korthan soldiers looked up in confusion and fear. Ships launched to intercept, but Jake waved his hand and they simply stopped. Engines died. Weapons went offline. The vessels hung in the air powerless. Jake landed in the center of the Emperor's throne room. Guards rushed forward with weapons raised. Jake did not even look at them. The ring pulsed and they froze in place, unable to move, unable to speak. The Emperor himself sat on a throne made of precious metals. He was large and reptilian, with scales that gleamed like armor. Who dares? The Emperor's voice boomed. Who dares enter my palace without permission? I am Jake Morrison, bearer of justice, voice of the architects. And I dare because what you are doing here is wrong. You have enslaved an entire species. You have forced them to work in conditions that kill thousands every year. You have ignored their pleas for mercy. You have corrupted this entire region of space with your cruelty. The Emperor laughed. It was a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. The architects are gone. Their age is over. This is the age of strength. The strong rule. The weak serve. This is the natural order. The architects are not gone. They exist beyond your understanding, and they left me here to correct beings like you. Jake walked forward slowly. Each step echoed in the vast chamber. I am giving you one chance. Free the Drenni. Provide them with compensation for their suffering. Help them rebuild their civilization. Do this and you can remain as emperor, though you will be watched. Refuse and you will face judgment. I refuse, the emperor stood. He was twice Jake's height and covered in natural armor. I have an army of 10 million soldiers. I have a fleet of 5,000 warships. I have allies across a dozen sectors. What do you have, human? A magic ring and an old keeper? I have justice on my side. That is enough. The ring flared brighter than the sun. Images filled the throne room showing the emperor's crimes. Not just against the Drenni, but against dozens of other species over the centuries. The emperor had built his empire on blood and suffering. He had destroyed entire civilizations to take their resources. He had committed atrocities that made the arbiter's crimes look small by comparison. Judgment is rendered. Jake's voice carried absolute authority. You are guilty of crimes against countless innocent beings. You are stripped of all power and authority. Your empire is dissolved. The Drenni and all other enslaved peoples are free. You will spend the rest of your existence in exile, contemplating the suffering you caused. Guards who served you willingly will face trial. Those who were forced to serve will be given the choice to seek redemption. No. The emperor lunged forward faster than any being his size should move. His claws extended sharp as swords. He reached for Jake's throat, intending to tear the human apart. The ring pulsed once. The emperor stopped mid-lunge. He hung in the air, frozen solid. Then he vanished, transported to the same monitoring station that held the arbiter. The throne room fell silent. Jake turned to the guard, still frozen in place. You have a choice now. You can continue to oppress others and face justice, or you can help repair the damage your empire has done. Choose wisely, he released them. The guards looked at each other. Some dropped their weapons immediately. Others hesitated, then followed. Within minutes, the entire palace guard had surrendered. Over the next hours, Jake used the ring's power to shut down the slave operations across the planet. He freed millions of Drenni workers. He opened the warehouses full of food that the Korthans had been hoarding. He disabled the weapons platforms in orbit. He sent messages to every world in the former Korthan Empire explaining what had happened and offering them the choice to govern themselves. The Keeper watched all of this with something like pride. You are learning quickly, Bearer. The ring chose well. Jake felt exhausted but satisfied. This is just the beginning, is it not? There are thousands of situations like this across the galaxy. There are. The Keeper agreed. But word will spread. Species will learn that justice has returned. Some will change their ways out of fear. Others will change because it is right. Either way, the galaxy will become a better place. Slowly, gradually, one act of justice at a time. As they prepared to leave the planet, Jake felt the ring pulse again. It was showing him another injustice. This time closer to human space. A colony being threatened by pirates. Innocents in danger. Justice needed. We should go, Jake said. The ring glowed and space bent around them again. They vanished from the Korthan homeworld, appearing near the troubled colony. Jake could see the pirate ships surrounding a small settlement. He could feel the fear of the colonists hiding in their homes. He raised his hand and spoke with the voice of the architects. Leave now or face judgment. The pirates must have heard what happened to the Emperor. They must have received word that the bearer had emerged. Because they powered down their weapons and jumped to hyperspace without firing a single shot. The colonists emerged from hiding cautiously. When they saw Jake floating above their settlement, they cheered. Word spread through communication channels. The bearer of justice was real. The bearer was protecting those who could not protect themselves. Jake continued his work. He traveled from system to system, guided by the ring. He stopped slavers and tyrants. He prevented wars. He exposed corruption. He gave voice to those who had none. Each act was small in the grand scheme of things, but together they began to change the galaxy. Weeks turned to months. Months turned to years. Jake never aged. The ring sustained him, kept him strong, kept him focused. The Keeper traveled with him, offering wisdom and companionship. Together they became a legend that parents told their children, a force that criminals feared and the innocent prayed for. And somewhere far away on Earth, people told stories of Commander Jake Morrison, the man who saved humanity, the man who became something more, the man who carried justice across the stars. They told his story so future generations would remember that one P. The moment Jake spoke those two words, the ring shot forward. It moved faster than his eye could track. One instant it was floating in the air. The next instant it was sliding onto his right hand. The dark metal band settled around his finger, and suddenly the entire vault exploded with light. Jake gasped as power flooded into him. It was not painful, but it was overwhelming. Information poured into his mind faster than thought. He saw the rise of the architects. He watched them spread across the galaxy, building and learning and growing. He felt their joy at discovering new worlds. He experienced their sorrow at finding other species suffering under tyranny. He understood their decision to create tools that would outlast them. Tools that would ensure justice survived even after they were gone. The knowledge kept coming. He learned languages he had never heard. He understood technologies that humans had not even dreamed of yet. He felt the weight of 10,000 years of judgments rendered by previous bearers. Some had been human-like. Others had been utterly alien. All of them had carried the same burden. All of them had served the same purpose. Then he saw why the architects had disappeared. They had reached a level of understanding so profound that they transcended physical existence. They had become something else. Something beyond matter and energy. They had left the galaxy behind, but not before creating safeguards. Not before ensuring that the principles they valued would continue. Jake felt the ring merging with him. It was not just sitting on his finger anymore. It was part of him now. He could feel it connected to his mind and his body and his very soul. Through it he could sense things he never could before. He could feel the truth of the world around him. He could detect lies like they were bitter tastes on his tongue. He could see through deception the way a normal person could see through glass. The light faded slowly. Jake stood in the center of the vault, breathing hard. His crew stared at him with wide eyes. He looked the same physically. Same height, same build, same face. But there was something different in his eyes now. A depth that had not been there before. A weight of knowledge and purpose that changed everything. Jake? Amy's voice was hesitant. Are you still you? Are you still in there? Jake turned to look at her and smiled. It was his same crooked smile that she had seen 1,000 times. Still me, Amy, I am still Jake Morrison. But I am also more now. I can feel the ring. I can access what it knows. I can sense things I never could before. He looked around the vault. His new senses showed him things his eyes alone never could. He could see the energy fields holding the artifacts in place. He could read the ancient writing on the walls. He could feel the age of the stone beneath his feet. And he could sense something else. Someone trying to sneak away. The Arbiter is trying to escape. Jake said it calmly, but his voice carried authority now, power that had not been there minutes ago. Stop. The crystal being froze. It had been slowly moving toward the exit while everyone was distracted by Jake's transformation. Now it stood perfectly still, unable to move. Around the room the guards raised their weapons, but Jake simply lifted his right hand. The ring pulsed once. Every weapon in the vault went dead. Plasma rifles stopped humming. Energy shields flickered out. Even the force fields holding the artifacts in place dimmed slightly. Jake walked toward the Arbiter. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. You orchestrated this entire conspiracy. You knew humanity was innocent from the very beginning. You planted false evidence. You manipulated the investigation. You were ready to destroy an entire species to protect your political power and economic interests. The question is why? The Arbiter's crystalline body began to crack. Stress fractures appeared along its surface. You cannot judge me. I'm Prime Arbiter of the Grand Council. I have authority over 47 worlds. I have served for 3 centuries. You are nothing. You are just a human. A member of a species that has barely left its home system. I was just a human, Jake corrected. But now I carry the authority of the architects themselves. Now I am the bearer of justice. And you forgot what justice means. You let power corrupt you. You put your own interests above the lives of innocent beings. You committed genocide and blamed others for your crime. The ring glowed brighter. Images appeared in the air again. This time they showed more than just the attack on the Threxian colony. They showed years of corruption. The Arbiter had been manipulating council decisions for decades. It had started small. A trade agreement changed here. A border dispute settled there. Always in favor of Velcorian interests. Always at the expense of others. Over time, the small corruptions had grown larger. The Arbiter had grown bolder. It had believed itself untouchable. The penalty for your crimes. Jake's voice carried the weight of absolute authority now. is removal from all power and permanent exile. You will spend the rest of your existence on a monitoring station at the edge of the galaxy. You will watch over empty space. You will have nothing but your memories of what you lost to corruption. You will serve as an example of what happens when justice is betrayed. No. Please. The Arbiter's voice lost all its arrogance. I have resources.
I have influence.
I can make deals. I can offer you anything you want. Wealth, power, territory for your species. Name your price. Justice does not have a price, Jake said quietly. Justice is not for sale. The ring flared with brilliant light. The Arbiter screamed. Then it vanished, transported instantly across thousands of light years to its exile. One moment the crystal being was standing there. The next moment it was gone. Only a faint smell of ozone remained. The other council members stood in shocked silence. Some looked relieved. Others looked terrified. All of them understood that the galaxy had just changed in a fundamental way. The old order was over. A new power had emerged, one that could not be bribed or threatened or manipulated. Jake turned to face them all. Let this be clear to every species in this galaxy, to every government, to every individual. The age of unchecked power is over. The architects may have ascended beyond this plane of existence, but their justice remains. I am that justice now. I do not seek to rule you. I do not seek to control you. I will not tell you how to live your lives or run your civilizations. But I will not allow the strong to prey on the weak. I will not allow the old to suppress the young. I will not allow lies to triumph over truth. He looked at Amy and the rest of his crew. His expression softened. I am sorry I cannot come home. This is my path now. But you need to return to Earth. You need to tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity has been cleared of all charges. Tell them the evidence of the Arbiter's crimes is being transmitted to the Council records right now. Tell them they are safe. Amy's eyes were wet, but she stood straight. She came to attention and gave him a perfect salute. It has been an honor serving with you, sir. We will make sure everyone knows what you did for us. We will make sure humanity remembers. Jake returned the salute, his hand steady, his eyes clear. I know you will, Lieutenant. Now go. Get the crew back to the Destiny and get out of here. You have a long trip home. The crew filed out slowly. Each of them stopped to say goodbye. Some shook his hand. Others just nodded. All of them understood they were witnessing something historic. When they were gone, Jake stood alone in the vast chamber. Alone except for the keeper, who shuffled forward slowly. Bearer? The old creature bowed low. I place myself at your service. I have maintained the architect's works for centuries. I know their history. I know their secrets. I can guide you. I can teach you. I can help you understand what you have become. Jake nodded, grateful. I am going to need all the help I can get. If today is any indication, this galaxy has more problems than I can count. That is true. The keeper agreed. But for the first time in a very long time, it also has hope. The ring suddenly flared with brilliant light again. This time the light did not surround Jake. Instead, it projected outward, filling the entire vault with images. They appeared in the air like holograms, but more real and more detailed than any technology Jake had ever seen. The images showed a fleet of ships moving through space. The ships were sleek and angular, and they bore the markings of the Velkorian government. The same government that the Crystal Arbiter represented. The images showed these ships approaching Marius 4. They showed weapons charging. They showed beams of energy modified to match human weapon signatures being fired at the colony below. The images showed buildings exploding. They showed people running and screaming and dying. They showed the Velkorian ships leaving the system just before Jake's vessel arrived. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Velkorians had destroyed the Threxian colony. They had deliberately used weapons that would leave traces pointing to humanity. They had committed genocide and framed another species for their crime. No. The Crystal Arbiter's voice cracked like breaking glass. This is a malfunction. The Circle has never contradicted the Council before. This cannot be. The Circle does not malfunction. The ring's voice was cold now, hard as stone and twice as unforgiving. We have observed your proceedings for 10,000 years. We have remained silent as you judged lesser crimes. But this is different. You knew the truth, Arbiter. You orchestrated this entire situation. You committed genocide and blamed innocents. The architects left us here to prevent exactly this kind of corruption. The images in the air shifted. Now they showed meetings in secret chambers. They showed the Arbiter speaking with military commanders. They showed discussions of humanity's growing influence. The conversations were clear. The Velcorian government saw humanity as a threat to their economic interests. Human colonies were expanding into areas rich with valuable minerals. Human technology was making Velcorian trade goods obsolete. Rather than compete fairly, the Arbiter had chosen to eliminate the competition. The Threxian colony had been a convenient target, a way to frame humanity for something terrible and justify destroying them. The other council members in the vault began backing away from the Arbiter. Their various forms of communication created a storm of sound and color. Accusations flew. Alliances crumbled. The political order that had existed for centuries was falling apart in real time. Jake's energy shackles suddenly shattered. The glowing cuffs around his wrists sparked and died. He flexed his hands, feeling blood flow back into his fingers. Behind him, he heard similar sounds as Amy and the rest of the crew were freed as well. Jake looked up at the ring floating before him. "Why are you helping us?" "The architects disappeared thousands of years ago. We are nothing to them. We are barely even worth noticing." The ring drifted closer until it was level with Jake's eyes. "You are not nothing. In you and your crew, we see echoes of what the architects once were. Curiosity balanced with wisdom. Strength balanced with mercy. The desire to explore, not to conquer, but to understand. The willingness to help even when it costs you. These qualities are rare in the galaxy. They must be protected." The old keeper shuffled forward. Its many eyes were wide with wonder. "In all my centuries of service, I have never heard the Circle speak so much. I have never seen it intervene so directly. The architect's tools respond to truth, yes, but this is something far beyond simple verification. This is recognition. This is approval." The ring spun slowly in the air. The galaxy has grown corrupt in the absence of the architects. The old species use their power to suppress the young. They twist justice to serve their own interests. They have forgotten what it means to be fair. We have watched and waited for someone worthy, someone who could carry our authority forward, someone who could be what the architects once were. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had a sudden sense of where this was going. "What are you asking me?" "We are offering you a choice, Commander Jake Morrison." The ring's voice softened slightly. The architects foresaw a time when their direct presence would be needed again, when the galaxy would require a champion of true justice. "We offer you the role of bearer. You would carry our authority. You would be empowered to seek truth and enforce justice across the stars." Amy grabbed Jake's arm. "Wait, just hold on. You are asking him to be what exactly? Some kind of cosmic judge? What gives you the right to put that burden on anyone? We offer. We do not compel." The ring turned slightly to face Amy. "But consider the alternative, Lieutenant. Today we intervened and saved your species, but there will be other threats, other conspiracies, other injustices. Without protection, humanity will face constant pressure from older species who fear your potential. As bearer, Commander Morrison could prevent that. He could ensure humanity has the time it needs to mature. He could stand between your people and those who would destroy them." Jake thought about Earth. He thought about the colonies spread across dozens of worlds. He thought about children being born who would grow up among the stars. He thought about how close they had all come to destruction today. One false accusation had nearly ended everything. What would happen next time? Would they be as lucky? If I accept what happens to my crew? What happens to the Destiny? They return to human space. They carry proof of your innocence. They carry evidence of the Arbiter's crimes. They become heroes who saved humanity from injustice. You, however, would become something else, something more, something apart from your own people. The Keeper spoke up. "Commander, I have served the Architect's memory for longer than your species has existed. I have maintained their works through the rise and fall of hundreds of civilizations. Never once has the Circle offered what it offers you now. This is unprecedented. Whatever the Architects see in you, it is special beyond measure." Jake looked at his crew. Amy was shaking her head slightly. The others looked confused and worried. They needed him. The fleet needed him. Earth needed commanders who understood the dangers out here among the stars. But what Earth needed more was protection. Real protection. Not just military might, but the authority to prevent conflicts before they started. The power to ensure that justice was actually served. "What would I have to do?" Jake asked quietly. "What are the conditions?" The ring pulsed with light. You would bond with us, carry us, become the instrument of the architect's will. You would have access to their knowledge, their technology, their authority. You would be able to sense truth and lies. You would see through deception. You would render judgment that cannot be questioned by any government or power in this galaxy. That sounds like a lot of power. What stops me from abusing it? You would be bound by the architect's laws, their ethics, their principles. You could not use this power for personal gain. You could not use it for conquest or revenge. You could only use it to serve justice. If you tried to do otherwise, we would leave you immediately. You would become mortal again. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about all the reasons to refuse. He thought about his life as a commander, his friends, his career, his future, but he also thought about the 700,000 Threxians who died. He thought about how easily his entire species could have been destroyed by lies and politics. He thought about all the other young species out there who might face the same fate. I accept. Jake stared at the ring on the pedestal. It did not look like much, just a simple band of dark metal with tiny marks carved into its surface. But the longer he looked at it, the more those marks seemed to move. They shifted and swirled like water flowing in patterns too complex to follow. The ring seemed to pulse with a faint light that came from deep inside the metal itself. A new creature shuffled forward from the shadows. It was small and bent over with age. It had multiple eyes that blinked one after another in a slow rhythm. Jake recognized the species from his studies. This was a keeper. They were one of the oldest races still alive in the galaxy. Their whole purpose was to guard ancient sites and artifacts from civilizations that had vanished long ago. The architects built this place. The keeper's voice was scratchy and old. They were the first species to reach the stars. They built wonders that we can barely understand even now. They created technology that makes our greatest achievements look like children's toys. This vault is one of their smaller works. Amy could not help herself. Even facing death, her curiosity was stronger than her fear. The architects are real? I thought they were just legends. Stories told to explain ruins that nobody understands. The keeper turned its many eyes toward her. They were very real, Lieutenant Carter. They built an empire that spanned the entire galaxy. They reached heights of knowledge and power that no one has matched since. Then they disappeared. Nobody knows why. They left behind only their tools and their laws and their sense of justice. The crystal being moved closer to the pedestal. Its voice carried a strange tone that might have been respect or might have been fear. Commander Morrison, you will approach the Arbiter's circle. Place your bound hands above it. The circle will read everything you are. It will see every choice you have made. It will know if you speak truth or lies. It will deliver judgment that cannot be questioned or appealed. Jake looked at Amy. She gave him a small nod. What choice did they have? If he refused, they would just kill him anyway. At least this way there was a chance. A small chance, but still a chance. He took a breath and stepped forward. Each step felt harder than the last. The air around the pedestal seemed thicker somehow. It pressed against him like he was walking through water. When he finally reached the pedestal, he could see the ring more clearly. The carvings on its surface were incredibly detailed. They showed pictures of stars and planets and creatures he did not recognize. They showed battles and peace treaties and moments of discovery. Thousands of years of history carved into a band of metal no wider than his finger. Place your hands above the circle. The crystal being commanded. Do it now. Jake slowly raised his bound hands. He held them over the ring, leaving just a few inches of space. For a moment, nothing happened. The room was completely silent. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. Then the ring began to glow. The light started as a soft blue pulse deep inside the metal. It grew brighter and brighter until it was almost painful to look at. The light shot upward and wrapped around Jake's hands. It crawled up his arms. It spread across his chest and neck and face. Within seconds, he was completely surrounded by blue light so bright that everyone in the room had to look away. Jake gasped as something invaded his mind. It was not painful exactly, but it was overwhelming. He felt a presence inside his thoughts. It was vast and old and completely alien. It moved through his memories like someone flipping through pages in a book. It saw everything. Every moment of his life was laid bare. The present saw his childhood on Earth. It saw his training at the Space Academy. It saw his first command and his first mission into deep space. Then it focused on the recent past. It watched as Jake's ship received the distress call from the Threxian colony. It saw the crew scrambling to their stations. It felt Jake's urgency as he ordered the fastest jump their engines could manage. The Presence watched them arrive at Marius 4. It saw the colony burning. Buildings were collapsed and melting. Bodies lay in the streets. The air was full of smoke and radiation. Jake had ordered his crew to scan for survivors immediately. They had found 63 people still alive in a bunker below the main settlement. Jake had led the rescue team himself. He had carried children through the wreckage. He had given medical supplies from his own ship's stores. He had done everything he could to save those people. Then other ships had arrived. Military vessels from the Council. They had scanned the area and found energy signatures matching human weapons. They had accused Jake immediately. They had not listened to his explanations. They had arrested him and his crew before he could even send a message back to Earth. The Presence saw all of this. It saw the truth. It knew Jake was innocent. The light began to fade. It pulled back slowly like water draining from a pool. Jake stumbled backward, gasping for air. His heart was racing. Sweat ran down his face.
He felt like he had just run a marathon.
Amy caught his arm and steadied him. The ring lifted off the pedestal. It rose into the air and began to spin slowly. Everyone in the room stared at it. The keeper made a sound that might have been surprise or shock. Even the crystal being seemed frozen in place. Then the ring spoke. The voice did not come from any speaker. It did not make sound in the normal way. Instead, it seemed to vibrate through everything. Through the walls and the floor and the air itself. Through Jake's bones and his blood and his very cells. It spoke not in words but in pure meaning. The message went straight into the mind of everyone present. Innocent. The single word hung in the air like thunder. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The council members who had followed them to the vault began shouting. Some demanded explanations. Others tried to leave the room. The guards looked confused and uncertain. Their weapons lowered slightly as they looked at each other for guidance. The crystal being's whole body flickered and flashed with agitation. This is impossible. The evidence clearly showed fabricated. The ring's voice cut through the noise like a blade through paper. This human stands before the judgment of the architects. We find no guilt in his actions. More than that, we find virtue. This one carries something we have not sensed in this galaxy for 10,000 years. The ring drifted through the air toward Jake. It circled around him slowly like it was studying him from every angle. Jake stood very still. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew it was important. This moment would change everything. Bearer of justice, the ring spoke again.
Keeper of honor.
Defender of the innocent. The architects recognized their own. Amy stepped forward. Her scientific training overrode her fear and confusion. What do you mean, recognize their own? What are you exactly? The ring paused in its slow orbit around Jake. It seemed to consider the question. We are the last will and testament of those who built this galaxy's first civilization. We are judge and jury and witness to truth. We were left behind to ensure justice would survive even after our creators were gone. And we declare that this human and his entire species have been wrongly accused of crimes they did not commit. Commander Jake Morrison stood in chains at the center of the massive council chamber. His hands were locked in glowing energy cuffs that buzzed with alien power. Around him sat creatures from 47 different worlds. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. All of them stared at him with eyes or sensors or whatever they used to see. None of them looked friendly. The chamber itself was enormous. It stretched up so high that Jake could barely see the ceiling through the dim light. Rows and rows of seats spiraled upward in a circle around where he stood. Every seat was filled. Every alien representative was watching him. The air felt heavy and cold. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Behind him stood Lieutenant Amy Carter. She was his science officer and one of the best minds in the human fleet. Her hands were also bound. Her face was pale, but her jaw was set in determination. Next to her were 3 more crew members from the ship Destiny. All of them wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth's Space Navy. All of them looked like they were standing before a firing squad. A massive creature made entirely of blue crystal rose from the highest seat. Its body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When it spoke, its voice boomed through speakers built into every surface. The sound came from everywhere at once. Commander Jake Morrison of the species called humans. You stand accused of the worst crime known to galactic law. You are charged with genocide. You are charged with the complete destruction of the Threxian colony on planet Marius 4. 700,000 innocent lives were ended. An entire settlement was burned to ashes. How does your species plead? Jake lifted his chin. His voice came out steady even though his heart was racing. Not guilty. We received a distress call from that colony. We jumped there as fast as our ship could go. When we arrived, the colony was already destroyed. We found survivors in the wreckage and tried to help them. We did not commit this crime. The crystal being raised one of its 6 arms. Silence. Your ship was detected at the scene. Your weapon signatures match the energy readings found in the destruction pattern. Your technology was used to kill those people. The evidence cannot be denied. Amy leaned forward and whispered urgently, Commander, they are not letting us show our data. They are not letting us defend ourselves. This is not a trial. They have already decided. Jake knew she was right. He had known it from the moment they were arrested. The council had made up its mind before they even entered this chamber. Humanity was the newest species to reach the stars. They had only developed faster than light travel 50 years ago. In that short time, they had explored aggressively. They had built colonies on 24 worlds. They had made contact with hundreds of alien races. Some of the older species did not like how fast humanity was growing. Some of them saw humans as a threat. This trial was not about justice. It was about politics. It was about keeping humanity down before they became too powerful. The crystal being spoke again. The council has reviewed all evidence. The council has reached a verdict. We find humanity guilty of genocide against the Threxian people. The sentence is as follows. Earth and all human colonies will be quarantined. No human ship will be allowed to leave designated zones. All human settlements outside Earth's solar system will be disbanded. The human population will be scattered across the galaxy as workers to pay for their crimes. This sentence will begin immediately. Jake felt his stomach drop. They were going to destroy everything humanity had built. Millions of people would be ripped from their homes. Children would grow up as servants to alien masters. Earth would be cut off from the stars it had worked so hard to reach. All because of a lie. You cannot do this, Jake's voice rose. We are innocent. Someone else destroyed that colony. Someone framed us. If you would just look at the evidence we brought, there is nothing more to discuss. The crystal being gestured and guards moved forward. They were tall insect creatures with too many legs and plasma rifles in their claws. You will be taken to the Vault of Judgment. There your sentence will be made official according to ancient law. 2 guards grabbed Jake by his arms. 2 more grabbed Amy. The rest of the crew was surrounded. They were marched out of the council chamber through a side door. As they walked, Jake caught Amy's eye. She looked scared but also angry. That was good. Anger meant they had not given up. There has to be something we can do, Amy whispered as they moved down a long corridor. Some way to prove we are innocent. There is always a way. Jake kept his voice low so the guards would not hear. We just have not found it yet. The corridor they walked through was strange. The walls were not made of metal or plastic like modern ships. They looked ancient. Really ancient. The surfaces were covered in symbols and letters that Jake did not recognize. They were not written in any language he had ever seen. The writing looked older than any civilization currently alive in the galaxy. The air in the corridor felt thick and heavy like the weight of time itself was pressing down on them. They walked for what felt like hours. The guard said nothing. They just kept pushing the humans forward. Eventually, the corridor opened into a massive room. Jake stopped and stared. He could not help it. The room was gigantic. It was filled with objects floating in beams of blue light. There were weapons hanging in the air. There were spheres made of crystal. There were devices that Jake could not begin to understand. Everything looked ancient. Everything looked powerful. This was clearly some kind of storage facility for items from long-dead civilizations. In the very center of the room stood a pedestal. It was made of black stone and covered in more of those strange symbols. On top of the pedestal sat a simple ring. It was made of dark metal and did not look special at all, but something about it made Jake's skin prickle. Something about that ring felt important. The crystal being from the council chamber floated into the room. Its voice echoed off the walls. This is the Vault of Judgment. Here the guilty face true justice. The ancient ones left behind tools to ensure fairness even after they were gone. You will approach the Arbiter's circle. It will read your soul. It will know your truth. If you are guilty as we have declared, you will die here. If you are innocent, the being paused. Well, that has never happened before.